Hi, this is Stephen Van Kampen-Lewis. It's August 17th. It's around 2 p.m., so it's pretty hot outside. But, as usual, it's the weekend and my kids are sleeping, so I'm going to film a quick episode, or whatever these are called. I want to talk to you a little bit about a primary hybrid called Cattleya Zachary Hodes. And of course, a primary hybrid is two species crossed together, unlike a complex hybrid, which is a whole bunch of species that are in the background of a plant. So Zachary Hodes is Cattleya violacea by Cattleya harrisoniana. And I got this plant a little over maybe a year and a half ago from a local vendor here in town called Miller's Tropicals. Great crew, great plants. They have a lot of H&R plants. They have a lot of really, the owners of Miller's Tropicals do a really good job with their Cattleyas and other species and hybrids and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, the point is that I've got kind of a mystery, and I want to show you what I mean. And when I say mystery, it's not something super amazing. It's really about the blooming. So I'm going to show you a couple of blooms right now, but I'll tell you before I show the blooms. So about this time last year was this plant's first bloom. So it's not a very large plant, not a very old plant. And there were, I don't know, probably close to 10 blooms. And that was in the first blooming. So I was very excited because the color is absolutely outstanding. Shape's great. You know, it's a really good intermediate between the two species, the two parents. And you can see qualities from both coming out in this flower. So this year I was expecting, big spikes with lots of, small flowers about this big. Instead, I've got 3 spikes, which I've got 3 open flowers and then 3 buds on the way. So really low flower count, and I don't really understand why, although I have an idea. So first of all, the obligatory flower shot looks good. Kind of in the shade here, but so I don't know how well this is picking the color of the flowers up, but I am pretty excited by this. These are really nicely intense rubra. They've been open for a week or two, so they may have faded a bit. It's also 100 plus degrees outside, which can age your flowers quicker than normal. So trust me, these are nice. Not really a whole lot of scent. I also want to point out that this particular plant, it's sort of, this year when it grew, it sort of jumped up physically. And so to sort of compensate, I know that as this one is putting out new roots, any plant or most plants putting out new roots this time of year in Texas, the roots are going to die. It's too dry during the day. This part of Texas we get down to about 20% humidity during the day, and then at night it bumps back up pretty significantly, let's say 70 or 80%. But those dry days, even with the daily watering I give it, really can desiccate new roots, even on these sort of tough Cattleya types. So rather than ripping this thing out and repotting and maybe chopping it up, I simply just jammed a piece of oak under here. As you can see, the sort of initial root, the exploratory root, really took hold. And I've got some more that are going to pop out. So, by this time next year, I anticipate that this will look like a spider web of roots. And we'll see. We'll see if it works. But back to the flowers. So, 2 flowers here, 1 over here, and some buds. A little teeny bud over here. Really, really low flower count, especially considering what happened last year. So I'm a little disappointed. Now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 brand new growths. So I think what happened is this plant really is trying to be an overachiever. It put out 4 big new growths on a fairly young, not humongous plant. Although it looks pretty big, but this time last year it wasn't nearly as big. It had 4 growths fewer. And I think what happened is there's simply not enough energy for this plant to put out the appropriate number of blooms while still maintaining 4 brand new bulbs. That's the only thing that I can think of that could be going on here. I'm not 100% sure. So the only way that I could really know if this is a valid theory or not is if next year, maybe I get 1 or 2 new growths, or the plant is big enough to support a huge flush of new growth, and I get a ton of flowers on each spike. So we'll see. And the reason that I bring this up is one of the more interesting things about growing orchids is problem solving. The best growers in the world have killed the most plants. I think I've said that before in other videos, but I really want to emphasize that. And the best growers in the world took their little mysteries, whether it's a plant dying, losing its roots, or putting out too few blooms. The best growers in the world are the ones that sort of think this through, watch the plants, pay attention, talk to other growers across the country, in their area, and sort of figure out what the problems are that are manifesting themselves in these plants. So I think that this particular plant has too few blooms because it was overachieving this spring when it sent out 4 new growths, and I'm hoping that next year the bloom count will be much nicer, and a larger plant will be able to support more flowers. So hopefully by this time next year I'll have this whole mount maybe covered in new growths, and it will be cranking out, each new growth will be cranking out 10 plus flowers, 10 plus rubra flowers, which would be really outstanding and would make me pretty happy. Another thing I want to point out before I sign off is that a lot of these new growths have 3 flowers. So both of these parents are bifoliates. Harrisoniana and violacea are typically known for having two leaves per growth. It's not uncommon for exceptionally happy plants to have 3 new leaves on a single growth. And so this new growth has that. This new growth has that 1, 2, 3 here. This new growth also has 3. 1, 2, 3. And finally this guy over here also has 3. So the low flower count is probably not disease. It's a happy plant. It's very healthy. It's young. It's really trying to get out the new growths and the new roots as quickly as possible to get as big as possible. And honestly, that's the kind of thing that as an orchid grower you're looking for. Those are very desirable qualities. But in the meantime, until this plant is big as it wants to be, I kind of have to put up with low flower count for now. All right, see ya.